on the Texas A&M Sports Network. This is Studio 12.
We welcome you to the south end zone of Kyle Field right here on Studio 12. It's one final summer sit-down. Will Johnson, Andrew Monaco with you. Did we save the best for last?
Yes, we did.
We just did.
Yes, we did.
I hope so.
Mike Elko with us as he and the Aggies get preseason camp underway, and it leads us to the opener here at Kyle on August 30th against the UTSA Roadrunners. But first of all, I'll be honest, I did not know your birth date. But for you've been celebrating a birthday right before preseason camps kick off for a long time. So happy birthday to you. As we tape, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
But this has kind of been your life, a birthday and then roll right into it. Prep for the season.
It's kind of the last defining moment I have of normalcy until the season rolls around. And so, I've always been good at giving the staff off so I don't have to deal with all of the theatrics that come along with the head coach's birthday. And so I was in the office by myself yesterday. That was great. And, got to go out, have some dinner with the family. And now we're here, ready to roll, and it's go time.
All right. You look at this time of year, does it kind of feel the same by now? The start of preseason camp, the starting line to a new season. Is this kind of a routine feeling for you now when you'll gather them all together and really, in earnest, go after this thing starting with that first practice?
Yeah, probably a little of both, right? There's obviously the routine, which is, hope springs eternal, and everybody comes into, fall camp with high expectations. But I think one of the things that we try to do, and you always try to differentiate, is what are the unique challenges to this team, to this group, that we have to solve here in the next 30 days. And as much as, there are certainly some staples of fall camp, the toughness, some of those things that have to be developed every year, I do think that you're trying to shape this thing specifically around the 2025 Texas A&M football team so that we get out of this exactly what we need to be the team that we're capable of being this fall. And so you spend a lot of time trying to identify those things and what are those things.
Mike, does it help that it's an experienced group coming back?
Yeah.
In getting that message across?
Yeah, I think what it helps more than anything is it helps us understand who they are. I think one of the things when you don't know the team and, with youth and you don't know how they're going to respond or react to things, you don't really know what their weaknesses are or where things are going to falter, and you kind of learn it on the fly a little bit. And we certainly dealt with some of that last year. I think when you have an experienced group, I won't do this on air, but you can kind of go through each kid and say, okay, like I know what this kid specifically needs to get better at. I know what pushes him to his limits. I know where his breaking point is. And so how do we evolve him? How do we develop him? How do we get him a little bit further along this year? And so the more experience you have, the more knowledge you have, and obviously you got to try to utilize that the right way.
And when you have the right leaders, it's not always top down, it's the coaches. When that message is from player to player, it resonates, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it helps. And I think just everyone understanding the standard. And I think that was one of the things going through year one is just you were constantly learning what is the standard? What is the standard for preparation in a game week? Okay, how do we handle big games? How do we handle losses? How do we handle big wins? And you just were learning everything. And now I think you go into year two and you just got such a better feel and understanding of what we're trying to get done. And so now your leaders at least know what we're trying to message through the locker room, and you try to get some consistency with it. And then it kind of takes roots and grows.
That did feel like a key word during the offseason, the word retention, because college football can be a bit of a revolving door these days, and it certainly was at some schools. But are you proud of that word, I'll put it in air quotes, retention, and what were maybe your reasons why the Aggies were successful in that when, like we said, around the landscape, rosters can get hit pretty hard from year to year?
Yeah, I think there's an inner belief in what we're doing as a program that I think kids are on board with. I think that's, in a nutshell, what a lot of that comes down to. If the kid enjoys his experience, enjoys his time here, enjoys being part of the experience, it makes him less apt to go elsewhere, right? And even some of the kids who did leave, there was some dialogue about, hey, coach, I really don't want to. I just – it's that time in my career, you got a lot of those types of conversations, not, opening your phone on Twitter and seeing that a kid's in the portal and going, oh, wow, didn't know he was leaving, and so like those things just speak to, I think, where your program is, and that matters, obviously. And so we're really excited about what we were able to retain. We were really excited to, like I've talked a lot about this offseason, I think the guys that we were able to convince not to go to the NFL was really, really important. 6 years here now, that's the first time we've had that kind of success doing that. That mattered. And so all of that leads to, an experienced group that has a chance to go out and do something this fall.
Mike Elko with us here. It's a summer sit-down as the Aggies get preseason camp underway. One thing, guys like Andrew and I, we kind of look at things on paper as you start a season, but it is decided on the field. But if I look at a few things, take the offense, for example, and where you get a lot back in the experience. It's across the line up front. Your quarterback returns, and he is a guy that can use his legs. Running backs seem to be in abundance with this offense. If I said a real nice starting place is a real chance to run the football, is that always a positive as you head into the season? Is that how you maybe look at it with so much back in that area of your offense?
Yeah, I think when you're talking about positives, for sure, as the head coach, you look at everything that could go wrong, and so you don't see any of the positives. But no, I think when you talk about having an experienced veteran group on the offensive line, some really, really talented backs, and a quarterback who's got a much better understanding of what playing football in the SEC is all about, those things are really strong starting points when you're talking about building the core of an offense. I think we know this internally. Everybody is aware of this. Our ability to take the next step is going to be, how do we elevate the rest? How do we elevate the passing game? How do we elevate tight ends and the blocking schemes to get the edges set the way we need to? Those will be the things that will ultimately mean us achieving the things that we want to and are capable of achieving.
You are big in saying that if you're going to succeed in the SEC, you need not just SEC-level talent, but NFL talent, and you're excited about both of those, are you not? I'm thinking about no shot to the wide receivers in the past. You upgraded at wide receiver, upgraded at tight end. You have to, but you also saying, hey, you know what? I want to see these kids go on to the NFL as well.
Yeah, I just think, I was in this league, and when I was the defensive coordinator in this league, we played the teams that won the SEC West. And, you look at one offense that had Joe Burrows and Jamar Chase and Jordan Jefferson, and like 7 of those guys are still actively starters in the NFL right now as we sit here today. And so you just look and you say, okay, what does it take to win in the SEC? That's the level of talent it takes. And so what you're trying to do is figure out how to elevate your talent to where, okay, yeah, we have more NFL quality skill kids, more NFL quality linemen. Yeah. And so that's just our bar, because I think you can play in other conferences and create different bars. That's just a reality. If you're in this league, that's the only bar. Mm-hmm. If you're a really good SEC football player, you're going to the NFL. And so that's what we want this thing to be about. And so I think we've done that. I think we've added some talent at wide receiver that is at that level. I think we've elevated some of our internal players, and they're going to have a shot to get to that level. But that has to be the standard and the bar in this conference if you want to achieve the things that we talk about achieving.
Does it help that you had to go up against Casey Concepcion, and you know who he is? And this is still one of my favorite stories from coaches' nights when Will Lee said, look, Mario Craver is a pain. You'd much rather have him in maroon, our maroon, yeah, when it comes to Craver. But Casey, that familiarity helps, does it not?
Yeah, I think you get firsthand identification. It's the biggest challenge is when the portal opens up is trying to get the right identification. And there's so many kids, and it's going so fast. And so when there's some kids that you've played against or kids you've seen firsthand, or the skill set, so you can identify whether it truly fits into what you're looking for or what you're trying to do, that certainly helps. And then I always think, like, with the speed and pace at recruiting in the portal, there has to be some type of connection. Mm-hmm. And so, just to be able to start a conversation with KC, like, hey man, I remember playing against you, like, at least that differentiates you from, the 800 people reaching out to him the day he enters the portal. And so I think some of that creates it that way too.
If we go to the other side of the ball, where the NFL came calling was with 3 of your defensive linemen from last year. But is that a position where maybe there's some names folks around the country in the league don't know yet, but really could by season's end. You lose some talent to the NFL, but is there some real talent up front that you saw go through spring drills and is getting ready to go through preseason camp?
Yeah, there better be.
You gotta
obviously,
have it there,
obviously those 3 guys that walked out the door are extremely talented players, and they had a special connection with each and every one of them, from either recruiting them or being involved in recruiting them to come here or whatever the case may be. And so, we'll be following those guys closely at the next level. I think you look internally and you just say, okay, we've produced more NFL draft picks since 2018 than any other team in the SEC. And so if there's any group that we've gotten comfortable to turning over NFL talent, it's been that group. And so you look at a kid like Cassius Howell, and you see the natural jump that he's capable of making. Bringing Al Regis back is really big for us inside. Again, I've said this so many times, but I think he played at a really high level last year and maybe kind of went under the radar a little bit just relative to the guys that he lined up as a starter with. You look at DJ Hicks, a kid who has tremendous upside and certainly is primed to maybe take the next step. Then you kind of go into some of the kids we've added. You look at Tyler Onyedem, a kid who came in from Iowa State, who's played an awful lot of football and certainly primed for a really big year. Dayon Hayes is a kid on the edge with TJ Searcy, who have a ton of experience playing Power 5 football. And then you got the bright young guys, Marco Jones, Ryland Kennedy. And so there's certainly enough names that you can identify and say, okay, we need that guy. And for us to be the defense we need to be successful in this league, those guys will have to become household names as we go through it.
Your second years, wherever you have been, there's been an incremental step, and I know we've talked about this in the past. Once again, that top down, but player to player, that understanding. When that cerebral part goes into that physical part, that's when you can take the next step, can't you?
Yeah, and defense is so challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of things that you have to defend nowadays to try to do it all with, a group of, like, if you look at our starting 11 last year, I think they came from 7 different colleges, and so you put that together and it was a lot. Again, we didn't play to the standard all the time, but it was a lot to ask of those kids. And so, bring back the entire back 7, second year in the system, familiar with the language, familiar with what we're trying to get accomplished out there. Now all of a sudden, Will Lee looks at a safety that he knows, that he's, the first beginning of the year, you got Will Lee out there playing with Bryce Anderson for the first time, Marcus Ratcliffe for the first time, and that in and of itself on one half of the field is 3 different colleges. Mm-hmm. And so, they're going to take a jump just from familiarity and comfortability with each other. And then obviously, they're very passionate about being good. Mm-hmm. And so they've put a lot of work in this offseason to go out there and play at the level that everybody wants to see us play at.
Mike Elko with us. And before you go, summer's kind of drawing to an end as far as leisure time for people. It's time to get back to work. But
people have leisure in the summer?
I've got one more in me before.
Is that what normal life gets to do?
You guys
in
are
the summer?
starting preseason camp, and I've still got one more vacation left.
I bet you do.
Yeah. But I say, you know what made me think of leisure is when you mentioned, we were talking about the defensive line, you mentioned Marco Jones. Well, everybody got to go have some fun out at Davis Diamond the other night. And I don't know if anybody had more fun than Marco Jones. He's hitting home runs off the roof of the Strength and Conditioning Center out there on the West Campus over the center field wall. But it made me think if Marco can swim move like he can swing a bat, yeah, you could have a pretty good pass rusher there. Yeah. But that was a good night.
I'll tell you what,
that was fun.
Him and Kiadi Armstrong put on a show in that home run derby, and then then you look at Maya Perez and she steps up and wins it, right?
Yeah.
And so she was this is the difference between the coach and the fan, right? The fans are on. I had my money on Maya the whole time, and she goes out and she winds up winning it.
Can I say this? Maya said, "Can I just hit just as many home? I don't need the whole 90 seconds.
I don't need
can I just quit after I win?"
She said, "I just want to win."
Yeah.
And but no, I think I think that was great. Coach Ford and I got on the phone one day and we were like, "Hey, one of the ladies in our office came up with an idea. What are your thoughts?" And she was excited about it. And so I appreciate her support and kind of getting us the diamond. And I thought we had a great turnout, and it's just great for the community. And again, there's a place that Texas A&M football and Texas A&M athletics holds in the Bryan College Station community, and that's not lost on us. And so when we get opportunities to do things and get out and interact with the people in the community, it's special. And so, it was a blast.
Did you notice how competitive it got when it was winning time?
Of course.
You love that.
As a coach, that's what you're looking at. Like, that's one of those things you don't turn off, right? So if you've got a competitive roster, they're going to compete. And so Jacob Graham steps up and walks it off with the game on the line.
Yeah.
So,
I did not realize his mom played softball.
Yeah.
It came
she was a
through.
good one. Yeah. So she's a big softball fan. Her and I spent a lot of time talking about softball, and Jacob was a baseball player for a good part of his life till he got into high school, and so it all comes out when the game's on the line. Apparently.
Look, I've always joked with you, like I always said, you can always see Mike talking to Jace Laviolette, and Mike always jokes, I just tell him what defensive ends can make in the NFL. You got to worry now about Michael Early poaching your kids.
My guys. I know. It's the first time, and it's so funny too because you deal with it with the football kids all the time, and I'm on a different scope because my son plays baseball in college, and so I know what playing college baseball looks like and how challenging it is, and so we've been hearing it for years. Oh yeah, I can play baseball. Like, oh sure, go ahead. And then so then Marco rolls out there and he hits a home run in the first inter-squad scrimmage. He goes out. I'm like, oh God. And so I call Michael and I'm like, hey, how good is this kid really? He's like, oh no, he can play in the SEC. I'm like, okay. Like we just get so used to, he's gonna grab a bat, he's gonna go over there, he's gonna strike out 12 times, he's gonna come back to us, and he's gonna realize he's not actually a baseball player. But no, we're gonna have a conversation in our hands in the future with Blair Marco Jones and how he can divvy up both sports for sure. He's
that type of athleticism is important, though, isn't it? I was talking with Marcel. Marcel was mad if Jacob Graham's home run is a little lower. Marcel's going over that wall and catching it. So I asked him, I was like, okay, when's the last time you played baseball? He said, I gave it up my junior year, and I know how good a basketball player he is.
Yeah.
That athleticism translates, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we actually did some of this at SEC Media Days with the ESPN, which I thought was great, was just trying to push this messaging out to youth sports. But yeah, I think kids playing a lot of different sports helps. I think building different skill sets, different ways your body can move, different levels of coordination. This whole like one sport specific to it, it really doesn't play out the way it's being played out or portrayed. And so, I think anytime you can get multi-sport kids as coaches, we're excited about that. We think that's a great asset to put on your team. And then when you just talk about the rare athlete, and it goes back to what I've said about Marco Jones. I've been singing. We've thought he was the top kid in the country for a long time, but just the level of athleticism it takes to be good enough to play SEC outfield and SEC defensive end, like those are not two, those are two very, very large tasks to try to take on, and he certainly can do them both.
I'll say this to close on that softball game. Andrew and I were talking about it late. In that softball game, Coach Elko came to the plate twice.
Yeah.
He nearly delivered a game-winning hit for one team, came up for a different team later and took away that game-winning hit, nearly had another one for the other team. I said, if this guy gets two different game-winning hits for two different teams, we're going to have to give Mike Elko the MVP of the game.
Lock for MVP.
But then Jacob Graham did what he did.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, too, my standard is a lot higher than anybody gives me credit for because I was disappointed. I had a little bit more juice in me, and I could have got that one into the gap. And so,
we were wondering if we could.
I'll be in the cages next year.
There we go. Yeah, sure. Yeah, a little BP.
It's funny you say that. I'm leaving. Don't you know your kids were in the cages working?
Yeah.
It's just. That's what you want to see, right?
Yeah, and they did. So some of our kids took that real seriously, and they got over it. And thankful to the softball girls made this happen, and some of the softball staff, and they were pitching them some BP in the cages all week last week leading up to it, and that's what you want. You want kids that have pride of performance, right? Because that just translates. If you have pride of performance in everything you do, you're going to do the things necessary to go out and be successful.
We're spoiled by the coaches here. At A&M, all of them, right?
You
all get along.
They're awesome,
and they all fit A&M, don't they, Mike?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah. And they're really awesome people. And I've gotten a chance on a limited basis to get to know some of them, and all of the interactions have been positive. And I just think it's a really good community. And I think that obviously is what you want to be part of as you go through this process. And so, I think it's a great group, and certainly great going out and cheering for them. I know they'll be in Kyle this fall cheering for us, and so it's a lot of fun.
All right. We're looking forward to it, Coach. We appreciate your time. All the best leading up to the season, and We'll talk to you more here soon.
I have a feeling you're going to be taking some of my time as we move forward.
This is the first of a few, and you'll be sick of us by then.
I tried to push the radio show back a little bit, see if I could get past your bedtime.
We're going 8 to 9, but we're keeping the bridge. I'm telling you right now.
So
you get to go. So we're going to have a little thing
so I can
so
go
you can
out
go
there and
meet
walk
everybody.
Yeah, without the bridge, I don't know if I can have a radio show.
No. So we're building a bridge in, even though it's a different time, 8 to 9 on Wednesdays. There will be a bridge for that.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
Mike.
Appreciate
it. Mike Elko, summer sit down right here on Studio 12 in the south end zone of Kyle Field.